Good morning. Here is your answer key for lesson 8-1. Note the answer for number 7 is incorrect. The book actually gave the answer for number 8 and put it with number 7, so it's wrong. So if you checked your answer key on Schoology last night, number 7 is wrong. It should be 2x to the 5th plus 3x minus 12, and your leading coefficient is 2. So take a minute to correct through 19, and then we'll move the screen. Here's 35 through 43. Take a minute to correct that, and then when you're done, you can score it, put it on your pink sheet. I will sign off on these tomorrow when I return and take out your notes. Alright, so today we're going to do lesson 8-2. Lesson 8-2 is multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. We have two goals. One is to multiply a polynomial by a monomial, and then 2, solving equations involving the products of monomials and polynomials. And I have no idea why, when I put this into the recorder, that my T's and I's sometimes disappear. It's so weird. But anyway, it's multiply a polynomial by a monomial, and then solving equations involving the products of monomials and polynomials. Alright, example 1, multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. So if you look at the one on the left, we have negative 5x squared multiplied by the quantity negative 4x squared plus 2x minus 7. One thing I'm going to do is add the opposite, and then all we're going to do is apply the distributive property to multiply. Now remember, when you multiply, this is where you change the exponents. So if we take negative 5 times negative 4, that's a positive 20, and then x to the second times x to the second becomes x to the fourth, plus, and then if we take negative 5 times 2, that's negative 10. And then x to the second times x would become x to the third. Plus, and then negative 5 times negative 7 would be a positive 35, and it would be x to the second. Now after you multiply today, you're going to want to check to see if you have any like terms that you could combine. And in this case, we don't. We have the same variable, but they do not have the same exponent, so we cannot combine them. So we would be done. And then also make sure when you're writing your final answer that your answer is in standard form, which that one is. Okay, if you look at the one on the right then, we have negative 6d to the second multiplied by the quantity 3d to the fourth minus 2d to the third minus d plus 9. Again, if I were you, I would add the opposite just to ensure we get our signs straight, and then we'll distribute. Negative 6d to the second times 3d to the fourth becomes negative 18, and then when you add your exponents, it's d to the sixth, plus negative 6d to the second times negative 2d to the third would be a positive 12d to the fifth, plus negative 6d to the second times negative d would be a positive 6d to the third, plus, and then negative 6d to the second times 9 would be negative 54d to the second. And then when you look, we don't have any like terms, and we do have it in decreasing order of our degrees, so we are finished. Alright, go ahead at your seat and try this one. Multiply this polynomial by a monomial. When you're done, put your pencil down and then we can check it together. Alright, check your answer with mine. Did you have negative 10x to the fifth plus negative 25x to the fourth plus 35x to the second plus negative 35x? If so, great job. Alright, example 2, simplifying expressions. We're just going to do the problem on the left to begin. So what you see here is you have two sets of parentheses in which we're going to have to apply the distributive property, and then after we distribute, we're going to look to add like terms. So some keys to remember is I would add the opposite, and then we can distribute and then combine like terms. So 3 times 5x to the second would be 15x to the second, plus 3 times 2x is going to be 6x, plus 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And then if we distribute the second set of parentheses, remember that negative in front of the x is like a negative 1. So negative 1x times 7x squared would be negative 7x to the third. And then negative 1x times 2x would be negative 2x to the second. And then negative 1x times negative 3 would be a positive 3x. And then if you combine like terms, remember you always want to start with your highest degree to make sure your answer is in standard form. So we would have negative 7x to the third first. And then if you combine your x squareds, 15x squared and negative 2x squared would be 13x squared. And then 6x plus 3x would be 9x. And then we would have negative 12. And then that would be our final answer. Alright, if you take a look at this second example, now this one's a little bit different because we have t's and we have y's. The book is doing it where they have the y before the t, but we know that technically we should put the t before the y if you think about alphabetically, but we're just going to go with what the book has here, so we're going to multiply as is. Before you start, I would go through and add the opposite. Okay, and then if we go ahead and multiply 15t times 10 y to the third t to the fifth, well 15 times 10 is going to give us 150, and then we would have y to the third, and then t times t to the fifth would become t to the sixth. So we add the exponents there with the t's. Plus then, 15 times 5 is going to give us 75, and then you'd have y to the second, and then t times t would be t to the second. Plus, then if we distribute over here, negative 2y times y t to the second would be negative 2 y to the second t to the second, plus negative 2y times 4y squared would give us negative 8 y to the third. Now when you get here, you would look to see if any of these terms are alike. Now in order for them to be alike, they not only have to have the same variables, but they have to have the same exponents. And our two middle terms right here are the only ones that are like terms, the y to the second t to the second. So 75 y to the second t to the second plus negative 2 y to the second t to the second would give us 73 y to the second t to the second. And then we would bring down the 150 y to the third t to the sixth plus, and then at the end, the plus negative 8 y to the third. And this would be our final answer. Alright, you go ahead and see if you can simplify this expression. Take a second to write it down and do it in your notes, and then when you're done, put your pencil down and then you can check it with my answer. Make it a little bigger for you. There you go. Alright, take a look at your answer and then compare it with mine. If you look here, none of these terms are exactly the same. None of them have the same variable with the same exact exponent. Therefore, we cannot add them together, and so that is going to be our final answer. Okay, example 3, we have equations with polynomials on both sides. What you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to distribute, do any simplifying, combining of like terms, and then you'll solve this just like we would a normal equation back when we learned chapter 3. So if you take a look at this problem, we have d times the quantity d plus 3 minus d times the quantity d minus 4 is equal to 9d minus 16. Before I start, if I were you, I would add the opposite. Okay, and then I would distribute, so d times d is d to the second, plus d times 3 would be 3d. Remember, when you multiply variables and numbers, make sure you put the number first, plus the opposite of d times d is going to be d to the second, and it's going to be a negative, plus, and then the opposite of d times negative 4 is going to be a positive 4d. And then that is equal to 9d plus negative 16. Over on the left then, if we combine like terms, d squared plus the opposite of d squared, what's going to happen? Those two are opposites, and so they cancel each other out. And then 3d plus 4d is going to give us 7d. So we have 7d is equal to 9d plus negative 16. And then if we go ahead and solve, we would subtract 9d from each side. So then we get negative 2d equals negative 16. And then if we divide both sides by negative 2, negative 16 divided by negative 2 is 8. So d is equal to 8. All right, here's a second part to example 3. We still have an equation, but what's different about this one than the last one is that we have polynomials on both sides. So what we're going to want to do is make sure that we distribute and do all of our simplifying on both sides and then go about solving our equation. So if you look at this one with me, we have 2x times the quantity x plus 4 plus 7. If we simplify this side, 2x times x is 2x squared, plus 2x times 4 is 8x, plus 7, and then over on the right hand side we would just have x plus 8, plus if we distribute the 2x here, 2x times x is 2x to the second, plus 2x times 1 is 2x, plus 12. Now over on the right we can simplify. We have 2x to the second, and then if we add our x's, x and 2x gives us 3x, and then 8 and 12 gives us 20. So we have 2x to the second plus 8x plus 7 is equal to 2x to the second plus 3x plus 20. Well, if we go about combining our like terms here, we're going to subtract 2x from each side, and what we'll notice is 2x squared. What we'll notice is the 2x squareds cancel out, leaving us with 8x plus 7 is equal to 3x plus 20. So if we combine our x's, we'd subtract 3x from each side. So then we get 5x plus 7 is equal to 20. And then if we subtract 7, 5x is equal to 13. And then if you divide both sides by 5, x equals 13 over 5. Or if you wrote it as a mixed number, you would have 2 and 3/5. Or if you put it as a decimal, you would have 2.6. I would accept any of those answers. All right, your turn. You try. Equations with polynomials on both sides. Take a second to write down this equation and solve it. When you're done, put your pencil down, and then you can check your answer with mine. All right, if you check your answer with mine, if you did it correctly, you should have gotten b is equal to 1/2. Don't forget, the b squareds are going to cancel out, and over on the right, 2b plus negative 4b is a negative 2b, and then when you go about solving it, be careful not to make the mistake. Sometimes students see negative 7 over negative 14 and they think 2, because they always take the bigger divided by the smaller, but remember that is a fraction that simplifies to be 1/2. Alright, story problem, real life problem, college. Tanner's boss gave him $700 to start his college savings account. Tanner's boss also gives him $40 each month to add to the account. Tanner's mother gives him $50 each month, but has been doing so for 4 fewer months than Tanner's boss. Write a simplified expression for the amount of money Tanner has received from his boss and his mother after M months. So if we go back and reread, Tanner's boss gives him $700 to start his college savings account. So we're starting off with $700. Plus, his boss gives him $40 each month to add to the account. So that would be 40M. And then Tanner's mother gives him $50 each month, so we're going to be adding that, but she's been doing so for 4 fewer months than Tanner's boss. So we would have 50, but instead of 50 times M, it's going to be M minus 4, because it's 4 fewer months. So if you go ahead and simplify this, we would have 700 plus 40M, and then we would distribute, so 50 times M would be 50M, and then 50 times negative 4 would be negative 200. Well, if we combine our like terms here, 40M and 50M is going to be 90M, and then if we take 700 minus 200, we get 500. So we would have 500 plus 90M would be the simplified expression for the amount of money Tanner has received from his boss and mother. Alright, for practice, you're doing lesson 8-2, page 474, 1 through 17, and 41. If you are in hours 6 and 7, don't forget to turn in your cumulative review. You can put your corrected homework in the bin, so make sure you have the total out of 35. Make sure you also give me your percent and make sure you have your name on it. Okay, second hour had issues with this, and so second hour students will find that they did not get credit yet for their cumulative review because they did not follow directions. So make sure you do that. If you have your pink worksheet that goes along with this, the Chapter 7 cumulative review pink worksheet, you can place that on the counter and I will get that from you tomorrow.